I was perched on the edge of my little girl's bed, doing our usual bedtime routine, tucking her in just like always. She looked up at me with those big, trusting eyes and whispered something that hollowed me out from the inside out. Mom says she's with a real man now. An alpha, not like you. I didn't flinch. Didn't shed a tear. Didn't raise my voice. I just sat there, stunned, like her words had smacked me straight in the chest with a bat wrapped in barbed wire. My 8-year-old daughter, repeating her mother's venom like it was just another line from a nursery rhyme. That's when everything clicked, not a hunch, not a guess, cold, hard knowing. This wasn't some random affair. This was a full-blown character hit job. I kissed her on the forehead, tightened the blanket around her like armor, and walked out of the room feeling like a stranger in my own house. Truth is, this wasn't the first red flag. Lately, Rachel had been dressing up just to run errands. She'd toss on tight dresses for grocery runs, dab on fresh lipstick right before bed, and keep giggling at her phone like it was telling her sweet little secrets. I told myself I was being paranoid. That's what loyal husbands do. We second-guess ourselves before we ever dare doubt our wives. But this wasn't paranoia. This was war. The house felt dead silent as I walked down the hallway, but inside my head, my blood was pounding like war drums. I grabbed the bottle of whiskey I'd been saving for our anniversary and sat down in the dark, eyes locked on the garage door. She was out again. Another girls' night, she said, flashing that fake smile that used to fool me. Liar. Her laptop was on the counter, unlocked, like she either thought I was too dumb or too loyal to check. Maybe both. I didn't need to dig deep. There it was, a folder labeled work stuff. Cute. Inside? Screenshots. Texts. Selfies. Hotel mirrors. And a video, her breathless and laughing, whispering, "He's not like my husband. He's primal." I let out this broken laugh, the kind that comes out when pain meets disbelief. Everything I needed to see, right there in high definition. My wife, Rachel, the same woman who cried during our vows, was screwing some gym rat gorilla named William. The type of guy who ends every sentence with bro and thinks eating protein powder counts as a meal. I watched that clip 3 times. Not because I needed proof, but because I needed help believing how easy she'd made it to stop loving her. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the door creaked open like nothing was wrong. She walked in like she was coming back from yoga class, tight black dress, heels in her hand, hair messy, face flushed. She reeked of cologne that sure as hell wasn't mine. I didn't say a word, just stared at her. Really stared. She froze when she caught my expression. "What?" she asked, blinking. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "You saw him tonight," I said. No rise in my voice. No question mark. She rolled her eyes. Actually rolled her goddamn eyes. "Are we seriously doing this?" I lifted the laptop in my hand. Her face went pale for a split second. Just a flicker. Then she smirked. She smirked. "Took you long enough," she said. "I thought you were supposed to be smart, Michael." She sounded like she was commenting on the weather. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she added, in this cold, deadpan tone like she was reading off a script. "Oh, really?" I said. "Then why bring our daughter into this?" That hit her. She flinched. "You fed her your garbage," I said. "Used her to send your message. That you'd moved on." Rachel shrugged like it was nothing. "Well, it's true. William's more of a man than you ever were. He's driven, built, dominant." She waved her hand. "You're safe. Predictable. Boring." And that right there? That was the moment something flipped in me. All the anger, heartbreak, it just shut off. Like someone yanked the plug. I wasn't mad anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was done. I nodded once, walked right past her, and went to the bedroom. Packed a bag without saying another word. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed like I was the one who betrayed her. "You're seriously just gonna leave?" she called out. I zipped up the suitcase. "You already did." I checked into a cheap hotel that night. Next morning, I called a lawyer. Then I called the school and adjusted the custody plan. 30 days later, I had full custody of my daughter. Rachel? She had nothing. No apartment. No job. No alpha. William dumped her the second he found out she was married. I kept the house. Launched a business. Never looked back. She lost everything because she bid it all on image and lost. Me? I chose peace. That first morning away, I sat in a $78 motel room, watching the sunrise through a cracked window that smelled like mold and broken promises. My daughter's words kept echoing through my skull. "Mom says she has a real man now. An alpha. Not like you." I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't hurting, I was. But betrayal doesn't always bring tears. Sometimes, it just lights a fire. So that morning, I called in sick, grabbed some gas station coffee, and drove straight to the lawyer's office. His name was Grant Bishop, ex-Marine, full-time shark in a tailored suit. I handed him a flash drive. "Make her wish she never met me," I said. He grinned like a man who already knew the outcome. "You got it." Later that day, Rachel texted me. "Only once. So this is how you're handling it?" Pathetic. No apology. No guilt. Just raw, entitled arrogance. And that single message told me everything I needed to know. She never thought I'd have the guts to walk away. She thought I'd grovel. Thought I'd fight for her, beg her to stay. But she had me all wrong. While Grant was handling the custody paperwork, I was busy piecing together a new life, one that didn't revolve around betrayal. But more than that, I was focused on protecting my daughter, Grace. 8 years old. Sweet, confused, and stuck in the middle of a mess she never asked for. She deserved stability, peace, a real chance. That weekend, I headed back to the house to grab a few more of my things. Rachel wasn't home, but the place already felt altered. Her perfume still floated in the air like a ghost that didn't know it was dead yet. The wedding photo that used to hang in the hallway? Gone. In its place, some artsy canvas of a lion. Real subtle. I opened her closet without even thinking. Half her clothes were missing. And right there on the floor, a pair of men's boots. Not mine. Looked expensive. Trophy boots. In the kitchen, I spotted a bottle of champagne chilling in the fridge. 2 containers of sushi, both half-eaten. Her favorite. She was celebrating. I checked the dishwasher. 2 wine glasses. One stained with lipstick. The other had a smudge, maybe chocolate. That image stuck with me harder than I expected. It wasn't about her being with another man. It was the fact she was doing it in our home, the place we raised Grace, the place I busted my ass to pay for. But the real gut punch came 2 days later. Grant called me. His voice had that tone. "Michael," he said, "you're not gonna believe this. That guy, a William Hughes, the one from the texts? Yeah, he's married. Got 2 kids. I blinked. What? His wife found the same videos you did on his burner phone. How the hell did she get her hands on that? I asked. Idiot backed everything up to his iCloud, Grant said. She had full access. She filed for separation and she wants to talk to you. My mouth went dry. I didn't know whether to laugh, puke, or both. Rachel had paraded around bragging about her alpha. Turned out she'd shacked up with a walking cliche, a juiced-up midlife crisis with commitment issues. Honestly, they were perfect for each other. 3 days later, I met William's wife, Julia, at a little coffee shop not far from downtown. She looked drained, like she hadn't slept right in weeks, but there was steel in her voice. He told me I was paranoid, she said. Said I was insecure. Gaslit me for months. I nodded. She pulled the same thing on me. You're not crazy. We exchanged everything we had. She gave me hard copies, texts, photos, hotel receipts. I handed her my files too. There was no revenge in our eyes. Just tired resolution. We weren't teaming up to ruin them. We were protecting ourselves. Our kids. We were closing the book. As I walked back to my car, something shifted deep in my chest. The pain hadn't left, not entirely. But it was changing shape. It wasn't a fresh wound anymore. It was starting to scar. And scars? Scars mean you survived. I pulled out my phone and texted Grace. Can't wait to see you this weekend. Daddy loves you more than anything. Because even in the middle of all this wreckage, there was still one thing Rachel couldn't touch. My daughter. It was a Tuesday when I finally saw Rachel face to face again. Not in court. Not through bitter texts. Not in one of those angry dreams where I say all the things I never had the guts to say. This time, it was real. Flesh and blood. She still wore that smug look, like she was holding pocket aces in a poker game she was already losing. We met at a public park near our old neighborhood. Neutral ground. Grace was with my sister that evening. Rachel showed up 20 minutes late, strutting like she owned the damn city. Tight jeans. Oversized sunglasses. Cell phone practically glued to her palm. She didn't say hello. Let's just get this over with, she muttered, sliding into the bench across from me. I looked at her for a long second. This was the same woman I used to celebrate holidays with. Same woman I took road trips with. The mother of my child. And now? She looked like a total stranger with my last name. You lied to me, I said, quiet but firm. For months. Maybe even longer. She rolled her eyes, predictably. Oh, please, don't start acting like some poor, helpless victim, she said, folding her arms. You cheated too, she snapped. We both know this marriage ended a long time ago. You were just too scared to admit it. I shook my head. No. I stayed. I showed up. I put in the work. Her lips twitched into a smirk. You showed up physically, yeah? But emotionally, she said. You were a ghost. You buried yourself in your work, in your routines. In grace. She shrugged, like she was talking about picking a different shampoo brand. I needed more. So you found it in a married gym rat with 2 kids? I asked. She didn't flinch. William made me feel alive. She made me feel like a woman again, Rachel said. Not just some suburban wife scraping peanut butter off the counter while you sat zoned out on the couch. Every word hit like venom. My jaw tightened. My fists curled around the edge of the picnic table. But I didn't explode. I wasn't about to give her the reaction she clearly wanted. You turned Grace into a weapon, I said slowly. You told her things no kid should ever have to hear. That I'm not a real man. That you found someone better. For a split second, something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe. But it vanished just as fast. She asked questions, Rachel muttered. And you twisted the answers, I replied. You manipulated her. She deserves the truth, she snapped. No, I said, my voice sharper now. She deserves parents who don't use her to prop up their own fragile egos. There was a beat of silence between us. Then she laughed. An actual, carefree laugh like we were talking about a sitcom, not a broken home. God, you always made everything so dramatic, she said. That's why I needed William. He didn't take life so seriously. I leaned forward a little. Is that why he also cheated on his wife? I asked. Because life's just a joke to him? That wiped the smile clean off her face. Yeah, I said, holding her gaze. I spoke to Julia. We've compared notes. Her lips parted slightly, blinking hard. She gave me everything. I continued. Your messages. Your hotel bookings. Even the picture of you in that red dress I bought, in bed with him. Rachel's mask cracked, just for a moment. Then, just like before, she flipped her hair and threw up that fake wall of indifference. Well, congratulations. Want a trophy? I shook my head. No, I want you to get something through your skull. I leaned in, not with anger, but with truth. You still think this is some game? That I'll break down. Come crawling back. But this isn't a movie. This is real life. And you're watching yours burn down. She scoffed. I'm not losing anything. Too late, I said as I stood. She stayed seated, arms crossed like a bratty teenager who'd just been told no. For what it's worth, I said, I really did love you. Even when you gave me nothing back. Even when you stopped trying. But I'm done wasting love on someone who spits on loyalty and tries to call it empowerment. She said nothing, and I didn't need her to. I turned and walked away. The breeze picked up, rustling the grass, carrying the sound of kids laughing nearby. It felt like closure. Not the end, not yet, but something inside had shifted. She wasn't my wife anymore. She was just someone I used to know. And for the first time, she had no power over me. The days after that were strange. There were no screaming matches, no desperate texts, no teary apologies, just silence. A hollow quiet where love used to live. Rachel never reached out, not once. She didn't ask about Grace. And honestly, that told me everything I'd been trying not to admit. I hadn't been married to a partner. I'd been tied to a self-centered shadow. Grace, bless her little heart, kept pretending things were normal. She drew pictures for me, told me stories about school. Once, she asked if I'd ever seen a rainbow that had 2 ends. I smiled and tucked her in each night, kissed her forehead like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. But when the lights went off and the house was quiet, the weight hit me. Not just the betrayal, not just the embarrassment. It was the realization that Rachel didn't just cheat. She mocked me, compared me, replaced me, and worst of all, she used our daughter to deliver the blow. I remember sitting on the couch one night around 1 a.m., just staring at my reflection in the black screen of the TV. I looked hollow, like a man who'd been stripped of his foundation, but still tried to stand like nothing was missing. I thought back on everything. Birthdays, Christmas mornings. Those nights she cried in my arms, thinking she'd failed as a mom. And now? It all felt like scenes from a movie I watched with someone who never really existed. This wasn't just a breakup. It was a death. The death of belief, of identity, of the man I used to be when I still believed in forever. I didn't want revenge. Not the flashy, dramatic kind with broken plates and courtroom fireworks. No Hollywood theatrics. No explosions. I just wanted truth. Answers. Clarity. But the thing is, people like Rachel? They don't offer answers. Only slogans. Recycled Instagram mantras about self-love and choosing happiness while burning everything down around them. Then, on Friday, my phone rang. It was Chloe, Rachel's sister. We'd always gotten along. Out of her whole family, she was the only one who ever seemed like she had a real soul. "I'm sorry," Chloe said quietly over the phone. "I didn't know she was doing all this." "It's not your fault," I replied. "But, thanks for saying that." She paused for a second. "She's changed, Michael. I don't even recognize her anymore. I don't know what happened." I nearly laughed. "Oh, I know what happened," I said to myself. She started buying into her own fantasy, started thinking she was too good for loyalty, too special for commitment. Chloe's voice dropped. She told me she was going to move in with William, but I guess that blew up. "Yeah, it did," I said flatly. "His wife kicked him out, took the kids, and from what I've heard, he vanished on Rachel after that." Chloe let out a tired sigh. "She's not doing great." Good, I thought, but I kept that to myself. Instead, I asked the one question I was still holding on to. Did she ever say anything about Grace? Any regrets? There was a long pause on the other end. "She said Grace would understand one day," Chloe answered softly. "She thinks being with William was her truth." My stomach churned. Her truth? Like betrayal was some kind of spiritual awakening. After we hung up, I poured myself a whiskey and stepped out onto the back porch. The air was cold, the sky silent. I looked up at the stars, and it hit me. I wasn't mad anymore. I was disgusted. Not just with her, but with the version of me who let it happen for so long. The guy who made excuses, settled for scraps, and convinced himself that staying quiet was the same thing as being strong. No more. Grace deserved more. I deserved more. So I made a list. A real one. On paper. Heavy checkmark finalize custody papers. Heavy checkmark remove Rachel from all joint accounts. Heavy checkmark transfer the house deed. Heavy checkmark launch my new LLC. Heavy checkmark start therapy, not for the pain, but for the healing. Heavy checkmark and most of all, never let anyone treat me like I'm disposable again. I folded that list and slipped it into my wallet. Rachel might have broken the man I was. But the man I was becoming? She wouldn't even recognize him. Then came the next hit. It was a rainy Wednesday afternoon when the email showed up. Not from Rachel. Not even from her lawyer. It came from the landlord of the apartment building where she'd moved after the separation. Subject line: urgent, payment default, and lease conflict. I clicked it, assuming it was a mistake. But no, it was addressed to me, personally. Turns out, Rachel couldn't qualify on her own, so she signed a lease using my name and my credit. The woman burned down our marriage and still had the nerve to use me as her safety net. I called the number listed in the email. The building manager picked up. "Yeah," he said. "She stopped paying rent last month. We've tried reaching her, but she keeps saying her husband is handling it." I laughed bitterly. "I'm not her husband," I said. "Not anymore." "Well," he replied, "if this isn't resolved in 10 days, it'll hit your credit, not hers." I gripped the phone tighter. "Send me the lease," I said. "I'm forwarding it to my attorney." She forged my name. And just like that, Rachel added fraud to her growing resume. But the chaos didn't stop there. That weekend, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Jessica, one of Rachel's old friends. She'd always been decent. No drama. Straight shooter. She sent a text. Just one sentence and a photo. She's doing it again. This time with a guy named Ben. Married. Father of 3. The photo said it all. Rachel sitting in the passenger seat of a black Escalade. Legs crossed. Sunglasses on. Laughing like she ruled the world. Ben's hand resting on her thigh. His wedding ring clearly visible. She hadn't changed. She didn't want to change. This wasn't about love. It never was. It was about control. About power. She got off on knowing she could pull someone else's life into orbit around hers, if only for a little while. I should have been furious. But what I felt was worse. I felt pity. Rachel wasn't living. She was spiraling. Just with better lipstick. Her so-called alpha had dumped her. Her image was rotting. Even Grace didn't want to FaceTime with her anymore. Not after that last call where Rachel called me weak in front of our daughter, and Grace just hung up. Even Chloe had stopped defending her. She messaged me a few days later. "I've tried, Michael. I really have. But she's unreachable. You're better off." And through all of this, Rachel still hadn't reached out. Not once. No apology. No remorse. No effort to make anything right. She built her castle on lies. And now that it was on fire, she'd rather call it fireworks than admit she struck the match. One night, while I was brushing Grace's hair, she asked me something that broke me in a way betrayal never could. "Daddy," she said softly, "why doesn't Mommy come see me anymore?" I felt a lump in my throat the size of a fist, but I swallowed it down. "Sometimes," I said carefully, "grown-ups make choices they don't really understand. Not until it's too late. But I'll always be here, baby. Always." She wrapped her arms around me and held on tight. That small, warm hug that said more than words ever could. It was the hug of a child craving something her mother never truly gave her: consistency. Security. The very next day, I filed for full custody. When I told Grant, my lawyer, he didn't even flinch. "She's digging her own grave," he said. "This won't be a fight. Just paperwork." By the end of the week, I had temporary custody approved by the court. Rachel never even showed up to the hearing, probably too busy chasing another real man to replace the last one. And for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in so long. Peace. Not joy. Not celebration. But quiet. Stillness. No more mind games. No more half-baked truths passed off as revelations. Just silence, and it was beautiful. That Friday morning, I dropped Grace off at school, kissed her forehead, watched her run through the front doors with her little backpack bouncing behind her. And for the first time since my world went sideways, I looked up at the sky and didn't feel like it was falling. It was clearing. Finally. Rachel lost everything because she chased image over substance. And me? I finally chose myself. That first Saturday without drama felt strange. No arguing. No whispered lies behind bathroom doors. No waiting at 2 a.m. for the sound of the garage door and wondering what perfume she'd reek of this time. Just me, Grace, and a kitchen filled with pancakes and orange juice. I was rinsing dishes when I got a text. "Unknown number. You've made your point. You happy now?" I didn't reply. 5 minutes later, another one. "I lost my job. My car's gone. I'm getting evicted. This is what you wanted, right? Full custody. The house. Everything." Still, no response from me. Because I knew exactly what this was. It wasn't remorse. It wasn't ownership. It was just Rachel deflecting again, turning the fallout into my fault. Classic. I shut off my phone and turned back to Grace, who was standing on a step stool wearing one of my old t-shirts like a dress. She was flipping pancake batter with a focus I hadn't seen in weeks. "You're doing great," I told her. She lit up. "Better than Mommy?" she asked. I paused for a beat. "You're doing great," I said again, "because you care." She smiled. And in that moment, that was enough. That night, after Grace had fallen asleep during a movie, I turned my phone back on. 10 messages. All from Rachel. The last one was a voice note. I put on headphones and hit play. Her voice came through shaky, either crying or drunk. Maybe both. "You ruined me, Michael. You really did. All because I wanted something different. Was that so wrong? You could have just let me go and left it alone. But no, you had to win." That's how she saw it. Not as a broken family. Not as consequences. But as a competition. A scoreboard. Like she hadn't blown up her own life and expected me to just applaud. I deleted the messages. Blocked the number. She'd finally hit rock bottom. And still couldn't admit she dove headfirst. A few days later, Grant called. Her lawyer finally reached out, he said. They want to hawk terms. Like a settlement? I asked. No, Grant chuckled. She wants to bargain. Says she'll sign over full custody if we don't press charges for the lease fraud. Also wants visitation when she's back on her feet. I leaned back in my chair. What do you think? Take the deal, he said without hesitation. Grace is better off with you. We both know that. Let Rachel fade into the background. She's already halfway there. So I signed it. Full custody. No child support. No shared responsibilities. Rachel was still legally Grace's mother. But nothing about her resembled a parent anymore. She signed the next day. That evening, Chloe texted me. She's couch hopping. Can't hold a job. Spends more time crying than anything else. I don't even know who she is anymore. But I did. She was the mask she wore. And once that mask slipped, there was nothing underneath but performance and panic. The house, once filled with tension, cold silences, and footsteps at all the wrong hours, slowly became something else. It became home. I took down her art and replaced it with Grace's crayon masterpieces. Donated that useless throw pillow Rachel insisted on, the one no one ever actually touched. wiped her playlist from the Bluetooth speaker, put my name on the deed, officially. It wasn't about forgetting what happened. It was about taking back the space, taking back me. I started running again, and not running away, but running towards something. Not from pain, but through it. And every mile reminded me. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was rebirth. The woman who once called me weak, dull, and easy to replace, she didn't haunt me anymore. Because I'd stopped chasing closure and started chasing peace. And let me tell you something, peace doesn't come like it does in the movies. There's no quick fix, no dramatic beard shave, no montage with swelling music. Real peace? It arrives in pieces, in quiet mornings, in reliable routines, in the tiny victories that slowly build a broken man back, one brick at a time. I wasn't the same Michael who sat in that motel room months ago, staring into the void. I was lighter, clearer, and for the first time in years, I wasn't pretending to be okay. I was okay. Grace saw it too. She laughed louder, smiled wider. She stopped asking when her mom was coming back. One day, instead, she asked, "Daddy, can we get a dog?" So we did. A golden retriever named Moose. Big, dopey, loving, and the absolute destroyer of furniture. Rachel would have hated him too loud, too needy, too messy. But Grace adored him. One night, the three of us, me, Grace, and Moose, were curled up on the couch watching a movie. Out of nowhere, she looked up at me. "Daddy." "Yeah, baby. Do you think Mommy ever really loved us?" I felt that question land like a stone in my chest. I took a breath. "She loved us the way she knew how," I said gently. "But sometimes, people confuse love with wanting attention or needing to feel important." Grace sat with that for a second. Then she said, "But you love me the real way, right?" I kissed the top of her head, slow and firm. "With everything I've got," I whispered. She never asked about her mom again. And while she healed, I kept building. The business I started in the middle of the storm had turned into something real. What began as a LinkedIn side hustle had grown into a full-blown operation. 5 employees, dozens of clients, and enough steady income to never look over my shoulder again. I named it Substance Consulting. Felt right. One afternoon, while going through invoices at the office, I saw an email come through. From Rachel. Subject, no drama, just one thing. My first instinct was to delete it, but curiosity won out. The message read, "You don't have to respond. I just needed to say this." I thought I was chasing freedom, but all I really did was run from responsibility. You were boring because you were stable. Predictable because you were dependable. I called you weak because I felt small. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know you were the strong one all along. There was no apology, no plea, just honesty. Late, empty, but honest. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, because the part of me that ever needed anything from her was already buried. She chose image. I became substance. That weekend, Grace and I packed a couple bags and headed for the mountains. No Wi-Fi, no pings, no drama, just firewood, fresh air, and a little girl who had survived more pain than most grown adults ever face, and still woke up every morning with a smile. One evening, just as the sun dipped below the edge of the world, Grace reached over, took my hand, and said, "I hope I grow up to be like you." And for the first time since this whole mess began, I felt tears not from heartbreak, but from pride. Because that right there, that's what Rachel never understood. Being an alpha has nothing to do with muscles or dominance or swagger. It's about being there when it's hard, loving even when it's inconvenient, being real in a world full of fake. She lost everything chasing a fantasy. I gained everything by staying steady. And now? Now I was unshakable. I never set out to write any of this down. But one quiet night, after Grace went to bed and the house had settled into that peaceful silence, just me, the dim light of my desk, and Moose snoring at my feet, I found myself staring at a blank Word doc. No plan, no audience, just the need to close this chapter with something solid, something real. Because closure? It's not a phone call. It's not an apology. It's not even justice. It's peace. And peace is a choice. It's the moment you stop wishing they'll change and start changing yourself. I never replied to Rachel's last email. Didn't write back. Didn't ask why. I didn't need to. Because I'd already lived the answers. I'd seen what love wasn't. And through that, I finally understood what love should be. It's quiet coffee in the morning. A hand on your back when the world feels heavy. It's pancake breakfast with your daughter. It's showing up, day after day, even when no one's clapping. She called that boring. But that's just what the self-absorbed call stability when they're addicted to chaos. And I learned something important. When someone's willing to set everything on fire for attention, you don't hand them a bucket. You hand them the match and walk away. Rachel? She kept spinning. Chloe told me she tried crawling back to William. He ghosted her. Then came Ben, the married one with 3 kids. That ended in court, more drama. She bounced from couch to couch, torching every bridge like she'd never need to cross one again. And maybe that's just who she is now. Maybe her path is chasing adrenaline until it drops her back into the dark. Me? I kept building. Grace started therapy. Not because she was broken, but because she deserved tools. She stopped talking about her mom. Started talking more about dogs, stars, and her new dream. She wants to be a vet. She was healing. And so was I. I dated a little. Coffee here, dinner there. Nothing serious. But the difference was huge. I didn't feel the need to impress anymore. Didn't feel like I had to earn love. I was just me. And that was enough. One Sunday, Grace and I were walking through the park when she pointed at a couple holding hands near the fountain. "Daddy," she said, "do you think you'll ever love someone like that again?" I looked down at her freckles, wild ponytail, a world of questions in her eyes. And I smiled. "Maybe," I said, "but only if she loves you too." She grinned. "Deal."